Alright, so this is probably going to be the longest and least coherent video that I make on this channel.
This will be not the longest video on my channel, but it will be longer than yours because it is a response video. And hopefully, maybe we can make it a little bit more coherent. So, let's see what we're working with. Let's see what you got. What's on your mind, buddy?
I'm actually kind of nervous to record this one. I don't know. Normally, I've streamed and stuff so much that I'm not nervous turning on the camera, but talking about this is like, I don't know if I should be doing this.
Oh, so you're going to say something that's like offensive to a protected class of people, like something really racial or something kind of sexist or homophobic, or maybe you're going to say something, I don't know, some alt-right talking points, some JQ shit. You're going to be dishing out some real hot takes. That's what you're preparing us for, right? I mean, why else would you be nervous?
So, I watched this Faraday Speaks video recently, which is going around. And I have some things to say about it, I guess.
I also had some things to say about it.
I'm going to say a lot of things that will probably upset people, both on the left and the right side of the spectrum.
Taxation is theft. Social contract theory is petulant sophistry. God is a lie. Feminism is cancer. Democracy blows. Minarchism is communism for stoners.
I also don't know how YouTube is going to handle this because I'm going to say a lot of words that are going to possibly trigger some filters and stuff. So basically, I would say that I identify with an alt-right ideology and beliefs, and I'm now at the point that I want to start moving away from that.
So now I have two questions. One, what were your actual beliefs? And two, why are you now deciding to change them or to switch labels, I suppose?
Partly because of the Faraday Speaks video, and partly it's something that I was already thinking about a couple months previously.
But his video didn't have any argument.
I tried reaching out actually to some forums of leftists and stuff, basically saying that I was a racist and an ethno-nationalist and I didn't want to be, and seeing if anybody could help me, but nobody actually had any advice of how to get out of that, which is weird.
Okay, so this partly answers my first question. He says he's a racist and he was an ethno-nationalist. And now he wants to not be that, but he doesn't seem to know why he wants to switch that. He wants to go to a forum of leftists and he wants them to, kind of chew the food up and spit it into his mouth, Mama Bird style, because he knows that he wants to change, but he doesn't know why. This is actually a little bit strange on multiple levels. The second level that makes it weird is that you'd go to these forums and they have no input for you. They don't have any link. They don't have anything they can point you to at all. That seems a little bit unbelievable to me, but let's keep on going. Let's see if maybe he sheds a little bit of light on this.
That's actually something that the right is really good at, is de-radicalizing a left person and then re-radicalizing them on the right, but it doesn't really go the other way. There's no way to there's no left-wing systems in place to escape the right wing, I guess.
You mean outside of the mainstream media and academia and corporations, especially the ones that run these media platforms that obviously are engaging in pro-leftist censorship? I don't know, it seems like everywhere you look, the reason that the alt-right is fringe is because the entire mainstream is this leftist place that you're looking for. I guess I don't really know what are you looking for, and what's this notion of so you were radicalized by the left and the right does a good job de-radicalizing you and then re-radicalizing you to the right, and now you've decided you don't want to be re-radicalized to the right, but you don't know why. I question, or my hypothesis is maybe you're really easily radicalized and you're not really taking any responsibility for your own views or really taking any ownership of what you actually think or really recognizing that you have any power to control what you think at all. And maybe that's why that Faraday Speaks video spoke to you so well.
So I tried that. I didn't like find any solutions. People were like saying basically immersion, like hang out around people that are different from you, and I don't think that would work.
But wouldn't it? I think the idea is that if you're exposed to people of different groups that you're supposedly prejudiced against, that since there's no reason to be prejudiced against them, you would build positive experiences. This would inform your history and your perception of them, and then, over time, you would have like a more balanced view towards them. Because it's either you believe that your racist views are wrong, in which case you'd have to acknowledge that this would work, or you don't really think that your racist views are wrong, or you're still like racist anyway, and like that's just the reason. It seems bizarre to me. Like if you legitimately believe that people of other races are like like worthy of like your time and your friendship, like other people, why would you not want to take advantage of that? Unless you think that those judgments you have are somehow useful, in which case, why would you want to change? It's really not adding up to me. It seems like you did get some good advice. It's just not the advice you wanted to hear.
So, yeah, right now I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm in like a really vulnerable mindset where I'm like, all my beliefs are falling apart and I have to rebuild them back up, and I don't know which way I'm going to go. I'm like in the middle of an ideology shift.
So this is leading back to that second question I had, which is why? What's causing him to have his whole ideology fall apart? But now I have a third question, and the third question is, why does it have to be, the entire house of cards? Why is it that, if you have one or two beliefs that are challenged, now you think that you need to change, I guess, an entire ideology? I mean, couldn't it just be the case that you switch one or two views and that it kind of naturally shifts? I think that's what it is for most people. Most people who, really think about or are interested in these topics, you might shift over time through different shades of ideologies, and there's a lot of overlap and a lot of complexity there. It seems very strange to just wholesale buy into an entire framework, and then once you find some sort of problem with it, you decide now you need an entirely new framework, and you seem to have an idea what framework you want, but you don't seem to have any justification for why you want it. It seems it's all very bizarre.
So I guess regardless of what side you're on, yelling at me in the comments is not going to help. So I guess just don't do that. Like if I get SJWs yelling at me, it's going to push me back to the right. And if I get all right people yelling and threatening me in the comments, that's probably going to push me to the left.
Okay, but why? Why would that even matter? If you're lucid enough in your thinking to say, I would have this sort of an emotional reaction to those kinds of comments, and it would lead me to move one way or the other, why would you not also realize that these are just your emotional reactions to it, and then to just discount anything that's not helpful or constructive?
I'm not like 100% opposed to going back to the right, unlike Faraday Speaks, I guess. But I'd like to become a more normal person. I mean, I don't want to like give up all my alt-right thoughts and replace them with socialism, because I've been looking at like socialist and communist stuff the last couple of days, and that seems like just as much of a cult as the right. I want to give up all the brainwashing and go back to being just like a normal person.
And now it all makes sense. Because you see, the goal is not to come to a conclusion that's the most true. He wants to come to the most socially comfortable conclusion. And my initial interpretation of the Faraday Speaks video is, here's somebody who was following the path of truth, and then as soon as he took on too many beliefs that caused too many social issues for him, he wanted to find a way out. And that's what this guy is really describing here. So I think that, honestly, he should just admit that he wants to be neutral or apathetic regarding some of these. I think that's the really obvious solution. You don't have to have a position on politics. You can just be apolitical.
Yeah, but I don't know if there's like an in-between. When I think of the in-between, it feels like I just like have lost all motivation for my life and stuff. But I think Faraday Speaks was right about how the alt-right is like a sales funnel. I never thought of it that way, but it makes perfect sense when he says it like that.
It makes no sense. The only reason that metaphor is appealing is because it moves the gravitational shift of you walking forward and repackages it as just a gravitational thing. It's just another way of not taking accountability for yourself thinking. You know, you're just letting yourself be indoctrinated, and when someone comes along and says, oh, well, you just kind of fell down a funnel and it was slippery, you didn't have a good grip, and then you just fell down and lost yourself. It's really pathetic. It's so pathetic and weak and completely ridiculous.
So the way that I think that I started to get into the alt-right is I was actually watching Styx Hexenhammer before he started doing all the new stuff and got popular. This was like, I don't know, probably 5 years ago. I was watching all his videos about like entheogens and Satanism and stuff. And then when he started doing the news and stuff, I think that brought me on, but I can't pinpoint like the exact spot that I started down my funnel.
So you're listening to Styx Hexenhammer's news, and this led you to radically change your ideology, but you weren't interested enough in those videos to keep watching Styx Hexenhammer, and conveniently you can't remember any particular point or any video that really sticks out in your mind that really gave you a eureka moment. You know, it's sounding like either you're faking it, you're just pretending that you have some sort of insight into the alt-right that you actually don't, for whatever reason, or you just completely are passively, vapidly consuming things without ever stopping to reflect or really think about things.
Faraday mentioned in a podcast he followed a gamer called Athene, which I also followed, but I think... And I also follow Destiny. There's like a lot. It's kind of scary how close our story matches up. But I think I was watching Destiny before he interviewed Athene. I don't know exactly how I got back into Destiny. I knew him from when I used to play StarCraft. He had this pretty famous video about a retard magnet using the Zerg, whatever the units are called. But yeah. So I think that's how I got into it, and then I started going through like similar stuff like Stefan Molyneux. I want to say Steven there for a second. Like Lauren Southern, that kind of stuff.
This doesn't make any sense. You're saying that Destiny brought you into the alt-right? Huh? What? And this is a fascinating thing too. Somebody else pointed this out. All of the people mentioned in Faraday Speaks' video, every single one of them are from that bullshit report, and I think that it's the same thing here. He's not going to name a single alt-right person or alt-right name that wasn't named in that report, which is one of the reasons, like, yeah, all of these walk back people, they're either fake or they're dumb.
Golden One, Jordan Peterson, Steven Crowder, pickup artists, and then it started to go into like like the incel and Forever Alone stuff, which is why I originally made this channel, was to like help people in that community, I guess, because the algorithm kind of pushed me into that.
See, I fucking called it. Every single person he listed is in that stupid like alternative influence YouTube report thing. And then so he's going through his pipeline, right? Starting off with the big names, and he's like, oh, whatever, this person, that person, Manu, Lauren, whatever. But then he goes into the ones he says are more influential, the ones he say leads him to creating his channel, which are the PUAs and the true forest loneliness people and the incels. And curiously, as he hones in to the people that should matter more to him, he stops using specific names. He starts just naming groups, and I think that's very interesting. So now I'm kind of leaning towards the interpretation that maybe he's not just like a spineless, really easily indoctrinated person that just kind of is a leaf in the wind that goes wherever the funnel takes him. Like, instead, you know, maybe he's just somebody trying to replicate what Faraday Speaks has done and just trying to continue on with the troll. So I don't know. Let's see what happens. This is getting a little more interesting.
And then even before that, I was on like, I don't even know how, but I got into like racist and sort of early, before alt-right, like proto-alt-right subreddits on Reddit.
Or maybe he's just a vanilla racist and he's using this as an opportunity to kind of virtue signal and create new distance between himself now that there's a bunch of new racists in sound. Because you see, for the longest time, he has just been a vanilla racist. And he's getting sick of it. And now that there's new racists to throw under the bus, that's the gambit he's going for. Maybe that's what's going on here.
I don't even know how I got into that, but I don't know. I agree with Faraday that I think he's right that we're like victims of the algorithm. I don't think, like, if you're on the alt-right and you're not completely convinced about like everything, you aren't necessarily like an evil person. I don't think
you're not a victim of an algorithm. And this idea that the algorithm works in favor of right-wing people but not left-wing people is ridiculous. I listened to that conversation he had with Non-Compete, and they were talking about the use of the algorithm on the side of the left as though it's like a new idea. They're like, hey, we can all like do conversations with each other, and that's going to make the algorithm associate us with each other, and then we're going to build a web, and then we can have our own Manhattan Project just like the right. And it's like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock, because the algorithm's a fucking computer. The algorithm's not a Nazi, and it's not a fucking monster under the bed. This is so ridiculous. Just the lack of any kind of a spine or responsibility here. And I really think that, maybe he just wants to quietly just be a racist and just like make some shitty jokes on the internet. And yeah, I say, you know what, if that's what you want to do, I'm not going to stop you. If that's not your tea, then it's not your tea. If it is your tea, well, as long as you're not hurting anybody, you go ahead and you make your jokes on the internet. It seems like now, because these SJW people have really turned up the heat and really like created these unrealistic standards, maybe now you're just like looking for a new home to be racist in. I don't know. I'm not sure you're gonna find it this way. I mean, honestly, going full-blown socialist, full-blown communist, that really is kind of the best way to just be overtly racist without any repercussion.
I think it's safe to like write off that part of it is because of the algorithm that you turned out how you were, and it's partially Google's fault for kind of pushing you in that direction.
No. Of all the things you're going to blame Google for, no, absolutely not.
I don't think that Google realizes what it's doing, but it's pushing tons and tons of millennials to like all kinds of extreme ends. And I don't know.
So I'm going to suspend my disbelief for a moment. Let's entertain the idea that this guy is stating this completely genuinely, and he's just like just so like weak in his thought that he wants to switch what he's thinking because he doesn't really know why he started thinking one way versus the other, how he got indoctrinated and then unindoctrinated and then re-indoctrinated. He just wants a new indoctrination, and he knows he wants this indoctrination because of the social climate surrounding it. He doesn't want to have any beliefs that are going to cost him anything or make anything awkward or anything that he's going to have to actually defend with any level of critical thought. How much does that piss you off at face value? The idea that people will come in and censor the internet and fuck everything up. It all needs to be curated top down for him. He needs somebody to chew his food up and spit it into his mouth. And because he's too weak to use the internet to think properly, that needs to be the standard for everyone.
Faraday mentioned ContraPoints, but like he said, I have kind of the aversion to trans people as a result of being in the alt-right so long, so I don't know if I can really listen to them. So I think it's good, really, if you're in the alt-right, you really need like a straight white man to explain this to you.
So again, he knows he wants to change his views, but he doesn't want to hang out with black people. He doesn't want to watch a video that features a tranny. Like, why would you want to change your views then? It doesn't make any sense. And then the second point of like, oh, we need to have a white person explain to you. Okay, yeah, I don't know, is that going to be you? Because so far, you can't even really explain what your views used to be, how you actually came to those views, nor can you explain why you now want to change your views or what specifically you're questioning, nor can you answer the same question I posed to Faraday Speaks, which is that, if this is like a so-called funnel, what's to stop you from just going back the way you came? Why is it that you reach this point where you've decided now you have to actually switch everything out? At one point you say, I don't know if I want to switch my entire ideology for one thing versus another, yet you still characterize it as your entire ideology crumbling and you're looking for something to replace it. So, I don't know, man. Like, what's going on here? How do you expect to disillusion or explain things to other people if you can't even explain your own view?
Yeah, so I listened to all of that bad stuff, and I listened as far as listening to like the Daily Show and stuff, which I would argue is probably one of the most extreme alt-right podcasts out there. And I don't know, the sad thing is I'm probably not gonna stop listening to them immediately.
So to be fair, the Daily Show is not mentioned in the report I referenced earlier. So there's that. But boy, all of that bad stuff. That bad stuff I shouldn't be listening to. It's like he's given himself like PG-13 ratings, like it. And he and then he says, "Oh, I'm gonna keep listening to it." Then why do you want to switch? What is it that you have an issue with? This doesn't make any sense. It's still not making sense.
I'm probably going to go back to it, but I'm going to listen with a more critical ear now.
I get that whenever you consume any form of media, you might pay attention to it at, different levels, and that certain kinds of like movies or TV shows or podcasts, they might be appealing on levels that like they work as background noise. You don't have to like totally pay attention, whereas other ones are ones that like you really need to focus in on. And it seems to me that when it comes to things like news, politics, philosophy, a lot of this kind of stuff that you see on YouTube, a lot of this style of content, it seems like you're kind of always critically listening to it. I don't understand. Like, why is it appealing if you're not listening to it critically?
The main thing, I guess... Also, the Paranormies. That's probably my favorite alt-right podcast. I don't know if I can give them up. So if anybody knows like a good paranormal podcast that doesn't always seem to circle back to the Jews, let me know. Because I tried searching for some, and it's all like 60-year-old men that are just like doing shitty boomer podcasts about the paranormal. So if you know any like high-quality podcasts that are about the paranormal and run by people under 50 years old, let me know.
It's not strictly paranormal, but I would recommend In Truth by Grace. Every video of hers that I've seen has been pretty thought-provoking and really interesting. But she's a bit out there. She's kind of like a cute Alex Jones that's like kind of weirdly wholesome. I don't know.
So I try to think of like what would push me to the alt-right. And I think the big thing is that the alt-right kind of gave me an identity and a community and self-confidence. It told me that my ancestors built the world probably, which is good to hear, and that like I'm somehow a superior person, which everybody wants to hear. And meanwhile, while the rest of the media was basically telling me that straight white men were evil, the alt-right was telling me that it's okay to be white, which you don't want to hear that you're like this evil person all day. So
there's a pretty wide diversity of positions you can take while acknowledging that it's okay to be white. Like, acknowledging that it's okay to be white isn't really mutually exclusive with most ideologies, except for the one that you've inexplicably decided that you sort of want to move back towards, but not really.
That's a big part of it. I think the left media is doing more harm than they realize when they talk about like Donald Trump and the alt-right. Like, Donald Trump is objectively not a Nazi. So I think liberals need to stop calling everyone Nazis, because to me, I feel like it kind of emboldened me. It was like I started off as just slightly conservative, but then the things that I was believing in, people were telling me that I was a Nazi for. So it's like, okay, if I'm a Nazi, I might as well go full gas the Jews mode. So I think that's what drove me to the alt-right. I don't know.
Okay, so it sounds like you decided to be an edgelord contrarian and took on a bunch of conclusions that you couldn't really back up or justify, got called out on it, and then you feel bad about that, and now you want to find like a middle ground. But again, why don't you just go back up the funnel a little bit? Just climb back up the funnel to the, I guess, more cookie cutter, conservative, non-spicy position that you had before. That's the piece of it that's really missing. That's not making a lot of sense.
But yeah, I've been listening to some communist stuff the past couple of days, and it just, I don't know, it comes off as like propaganda.
Yeah, but that's exactly what you were looking for.
The advice I would give to communists is don't use self-deprecating stuff. Like, I've seen communists refer to themselves as commie scum, using words like tankies and stuff. And as somebody that's like coming to it with a somewhat open mind, trying to leave the alt-right and get to something more left, it's a big turnoff, I guess.
You mean the fact that it's the same group of people who are on everyone's ass about associating with Nazis and how insensitive that is, that there's something off-putting about them downplaying their casual association with an ideology that's murdered, over 10 times as many people?
I'm more coming around on the idea of like toxic masculinity. And I listened to something about how in your childhood you're told like that's gay, and that kind of pushes you away from everything that's like has to do with feelings or showing any kind of weakness as a guy. And I think
the idea that somebody supposedly makes the circuit of PUA ideas of like forever alone or true forced loneliness and incel things without encountering MGTOW, the manosphere, or feminism, or anything in the broader like anti-feminist umbrella, this seems a little bit unbelievable to me. It's all very, very kind of backwards. But no, you're not going to find the answers you seek in like toxic masculinity. Just as you acknowledge that the left is promoting really toxic and harmful attitudes towards white people that are actually backfiring, it baffles me that you're not noticing that the same dynamic can occur in regard to sex.
That's really true too. So the big reason that I want to move away from the alt-right, I'm really into like spiritual enlightenment stuff, which is kind of counterproductive to the alt-right. It's like complete opposite ends of the spectrum, like super woke.
The alt-right is actually very much aligned with religion, and they see religion as kind of a means to an end of achieving that spirituality. So I'm not sure how you're getting to this conclusion, but I can see how somebody who's into this like sort of vague non-religious or even like sacrilegious spiritualism, that maybe like your brain's just kind of like mystically woo melted to a point where you're really just not thinking clearly at all. And I think it's all pretty much emotion based. So I think you just want something that kind of feels like it's really spiritually wholesome, and you're just kind of going off of like what color is it? I
guess the alt-right calls himself woke too, but whatever. But like totally opposite end of the spectrum. So I know that like if I'm pursuing spiritual enlightenment and trying to like actualize myself, I can't do that if I'm hating people at the same time.
It sounds like rejecting the alt-right isn't really going to get rid of your hatred. It seems like you had the hatred first, and then the alt-right was just convenient to it, and then you were never actually interested in any of the ideas.
So I need to stop hating people. Also, I live in Canada, so it's just really hard. Like, I feel really alienated from people ever since I was supporting Trump, like before the election. That's when I've been full alt-right since like before Trump got elected. I was all gung-ho on Trump. So I know all the dog whistles and secret handshakes that have been part of the alt-right since then.
Uh-huh.
What was I gonna say? Yeah, it's really hard. Like, everybody here hates Trump, and nobody would even like listen to alt-right ideas. So like my girlfriend is like super liberal. All of our friends were liberal. Even when I was working in an office, like the CEO would make Trump jokes and stuff during meetings, which was annoying.
So again, we're not going to hear any actual arguments, any actual points that he's like switched on or anything that he's actually thinking about in regard to these ideas. We're just going to hear about how other people thought about these ideas, and he just doesn't want to be associated with or have to defend ideas that are going to be socially inconvenient.
Yeah, what else? Yeah, and there's like a poisonous sense of humor. I guess I have like a dark sense of humor, and part of that draws me to the alt-right, I guess, in addition to like the sense of belonging and the feeling of superiority.
And now you've lost that sense of humor, and that's why the left seems like a more appropriate home? Or you do still have the sense of humor, but you don't agree with any of the ideas? Maybe is the problem that you have some ideological difference, but you want to go somewhere where like the jokes are funny, and the left is just so bad at memeing and so not funny that like that's where the real problem is? You just like want someone to be comfortable and entertained without having to reinforce like the racism that led you to all of the most comfortable and entertaining entertainment?
It's weird because probably a decade ago I would have considered myself super liberal. I watched all the Zeitgeist documentaries, and I was down with building like a resource-based economy and all this stuff. I agreed with all the anti-war and anti-George Bush stuff at the time. But now, if I watch something like Stephen Colbert or Trevor Noah, all of those like super left-wing late-night comedy shows, they're all super triggering to me. If I even see or hear their voices, they don't even have to be talking to Trump. So...
Well, maybe you discovered Stefan Molyneux when he debated Peter Joseph. Have you considered that? You know, and honestly, anybody who is unironically on board with the resource-based economy people, it seems like my theory that he's just kind of a leaf in the wind. That one, maybe that's the prevailing one. But on the other hand, the idea that he's like a liberal that's just faking having been associated with the right so that he can like use his knowledge of it as sort of like let me be your guide to it, and as a white person I can help explain to other white people, and we can help get more people to walk back, and then you'll forgive me for my racism, which was, you know, the something that happened before all of this became a thing. I don't know, maybe my theory is kind of hanging together. I'm trying my best to make this, you know, admittedly, self-admittedly incoherent video somehow coherent. It's been kind of an interesting journey. But if you want to know something interesting about the RBE people, and really it kind of explains the conflict between the so-called anarcho-communists and the anarcho-capitalists. If you want to have a resource-based economy, the best path to do that is through anarcho-capitalism. Because under anarcho-capitalism, nothing is preventing you from forming that kind of a society. And all signs indicate that once we have a sort of society that achieves that level of wealth, you can basically create those kinds of economies. And they look better and better and better the more luxury that capitalism affords you. So, you know, maybe that's something to consider. Because so far we haven't really mentioned like libertarianism or anything like that. And, you know, maybe that's kind of an option or a pathway that can lead to as little cognitive dissonance as possible.
I don't know. I feel like, so I've got all this alt-right stuff, like the pro-Trump, anti-immigration, anti-refugee, racist, homophobic, anti-Semitic, transphobic messages. They've really infected my mind, and I'm like, I guess looking for a way to break free of that.
It's not that he doesn't think any of that's not true or not valid anymore. It's just not socially convenient.
Again, it's like the sales funnel. I feel like I'm trapped, getting stuck down the funnel. I don't know where to look to become de-radicalized. Because the more I think about it, there's probably not that much different between me and like a Muslim extremist. We're both looking out for our own best interest and the people that we consider important, so...
But isn't there? I mean, a lot of these extremists are like violent terrorists, whereas when you look at like the Western like alt-right, people who want an ethno-state, a lot of them want to just find a place where they can set up a country where they exclude people. So they're not really out there trying to take over other people's land. They want to have their own space that they can keep for themselves and have some level of exclusivity. Like, that's a lot different from what a Muslim extremist is advocating for. It seems like these really aren't comparable.
I consider myself like radicalized, and I'm actively looking for ways to de-radicalize myself. So I guess the first step is just like admitting that I want to let go of a lot of the alt-right ideas, but it's like there's like a mind virus that hijacks the logical part of your brain.
How do you know it's not the virus that you're seeking now?
And you can't let go of it. Like, I was talking to somebody the other day and they said something about protests, and my brain just like recoils at the idea of the word protest, because it just makes me think of like liberal protests. You don't really, besides like Charlottesville, you don't see any right-wing protests. So even like I have aversions to words like protest, because to me that's like a left-wing word.
I don't know, I think people on the right protest all the time, but maybe it is more on the left side of things. Maybe there's a little bit more of it. I suppose when you're somebody who sees the government as a valid solution to so many things, it just makes sense to like whine to other people to have them solve the problem for you. I don't know, like protests are kind of gay. It is kind of like a weird thing. And, you know, oftentimes the energy is probably spent better in other ways, even toward the same goal that the protest is allegedly going towards.
And I keep trying to cut back and like unsubscribe from all the bad YouTube channels that I'm watching, all of like the alt-right and conservative propaganda, but stuff keeps drawing me back.
You can't save yourself from all of the bad YouTubers, so you need Susan to do it for you.
I don't know if it's like my personality or what, but it feels like it's the only place that I belong. So even if I unsubscribe from channels, then I'll be like looking in my recommended feed on the side, and like weeks later I'll see somebody that I unsubscribed from, and I'll click through to their video and I'll get sucked back in and resubscribe to them. So that's the thing.
So we need like a 12-step program for you to not click on things you don't like?
And yeah, like I mentioned, nobody in real life is really alt-right, so it's kind of isolating too. It gives you a community online, but it's really isolating in real life. Like, I don't know. I want to start living and embracing liberal values, but my mind is filled with words like cuck and soy boy whenever I hear stuff about like immigration. And I don't know how to start convincing myself that things like the wage gap are real when I've like listened to people debunk them for months or years, and I hear about like FBI crime statistics about black people that seems like a reputable source, and I don't know how to like undo the seeming logic in my mind.
Nobody will ever prove to you that the wage gap is real, nor will they ever prove to you that African Americans do not commit a disproportionate amount of crime. These are facts. Now, some people might trick you into thinking otherwise, but the reason everyone and their sister has been debunking and pointing these things out for years and years and years without any real rebuttal is because these things are true and everyone knows it. Now, where you go from there is any number of different directions. It's bizarre to me that you take these two facts, these 2 points, and apparently from these you see it as just this inevitable funnel toward a singular point. That's bizarre. Very bizarre. There's all kinds of different positions you can take that are consistent with acknowledging both of these facts.
Like, my brain just puts up a wall whenever I try to think about things like feminism, diversity, equality, and it overwhelms me with the facts and information that the alt-right has given to me. And on some level, I know most of it's bad info, but I can't convince myself that the positions that I hold are wrong.
If you think it's bad info, why don't you just look into the sources yourself and see whether or not it checks out? That seems like a pretty obvious solution. And this is why I compare you to a baby bird that needs to have somebody else chew the food up and spit it into your mouth, because that's exactly what you're asking for. And it's weird. It's weird because you're an adult and you're doing that.
So yeah, I want to make myself into a better person, basically, and I think the alt-right stuff is kind of holding me back.
situating yourself more conveniently in a social sense isn't the same as becoming a better person.
I don't know how to break free, I guess. I don't know. I think that's all I have to say. I'm probably going to end up making a part 2. Because I've been thinking about this for like 3 days, and I've had notes here, so I was reading a bunch of stuff so I didn't forget stuff. But there's even stuff that I forgot to put on my list, so...
I think the fact that you had notes is the most unbelievable part of this video.
I don't know. So, on one hand, it feels really bad that, like, all of the alt-right people that I feel like I look up to are going to see this and, like, disavow me and be like, fuck that guy.
If you stop basing all of your beliefs and all of your values on social approval, then you wouldn't have this problem.
I don't know. For me, I feel like the biggest thing is overcoming, like, thinking that Muslims are terrorists and seeing why immigration is good. My mind is going to take a while before I can wrap my head around that one, but...
Yeah, good luck with that.
I thought this was going to make me sound more like I was wanting to leave the alt-right. I don't know how this message comes across. I'm probably just rambling, so hopefully this made some sense to somebody, though, but hopefully it helps someone. I don't know how it's going to help anybody, but hopefully it does. If you have any questions, let me know, and I can answer things, I guess. I mean, I feel like I would be a really good asset to the left because I do know so much about the alt-right. But I don't know. I don't know how to, like, fully change my mind.
Was this really just a very long Antifa job application or something?
Like, if I wanted to join the alt-right, all I'd have to do is open up YouTube, and I'm going to start going down the rabbit hole and get filtered through that sales funnel. The algorithm will take over from there, but I don't know how to start getting de-radicalized out of the right, I guess.
Turn off autoplay. How about that?
And as for if... what's his name? Faraday Speaks is a troll or not? I've heard people saying that too. It kind of worried me too after like the second video, but then I saw this 2-hour podcast with him.
He's not certainly a troll, but he is almost certainly a troll.
And he seems pretty legit, but even if he's not, I feel like his message is so sincere.
If he's a troll, then it's not sincere by definition.
And it was so scary how similar it was to my story of coming to the alt-right.
The only thing we know about your story is that you just kind of passively watched a lot of YouTube videos and left autoplay on and wasn't really thinking about anything. Also, you used to be unironically racist. Your stories are actually kind of opposite, because in his story, he was like perfectly naive and then fell down the rabbit hole and then becomes racist afterwards. But he even says he was alt-light and never even fully alt-right. Your stories actually aren't similar at all. Your stories have like almost nothing in common.
It doesn't really matter if he's a troll or not, because I think, well, if he is a troll, it's not going to be very effective, because I think they're going to find that that message is actually going to start pulling people out of the alt-right.
I agree that there's a sense in which him being a troll doesn't matter, but I think that what it exposes is how just dumb and vapid the left is, because all of these videos I've seen of these people walking back to the left, you don't make any arguments or have any actual points. You just are emotionally making these claims and just like wanting to conveniently like re-feng shui your social life because you don't want to deal with having to actually defend any real positions.
So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully he's sincere, but it doesn't really matter. That is all that I can think to say right now.
Okay, bye.
There might be a part 2 to this, but this is just going to be my big ramble to start with. So I'll stop there.
Bye.
And then when I think about more to say about it, I'll do that.
Stop Brexiting and go.
A few things I've been watching.
Nope, we're leaving now.
Feel free to give me thoughts, and I don't know. That's it for now. See ya.
Well, I hope that was interesting. I don't know if we learned anything, but these videos are kind of fun to respond to, and it is kind of a funny little niche, these walk back videos. So maybe I'll make another one of these. I guess this is the third of these kinds of videos I've made so far. I don't know. What are your theories? Do you guys think I hit the nail on the head? Do you think maybe this guy's a troll also? I don't know. Let me know what you think, and keep on keeping on, and have a nice day. Bye!